EBF's new open forum is a live Bible questions and answers program. What kind of Bible question do you have? What subject is of concern to you? Well, this is a program designed to offer you the opportunity to call in and ask questions or comments relating to the Bible. Our host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann, will respond by going to the Bible, the infallible Word of God. Our program is hosted Monday through Friday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Sundays, it begins at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Call our toll-free number at 888-969-9883. Again, that's 888-969-9883. There will be someone there to answer your call and give you simple instructions to be on the program. You can also join through Zoom video by going to ebiblefellowship.org and clicking the icon at the top. If you're calling in from another country, select the International Toll-Free button to find your country's number.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's new open forum program. During this time, we're going to open up the phone line to take your call, and each person is invited to give us a call if you have a question or a comment, and I'll try to respond by going to the Bible to see what we can find out about the thing that you're interested in. Before we do that, just like to mention, Lord willing, upcoming virtual Day in the Word, which it's not this Sunday, but the Sunday after that. And we're hoping to have a hymn sing right on Zoom, live for everyone who wants to participate. And also, if anyone is interested in recording yourself and sending a Christmas greeting, you can write us at info at ebiblefellowship.org, info at ebiblefellowship.org. And that's all the announcements that we have. And so we'll get started by going to our first caller tonight. Welcome to our program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hi, Chris. What was that number breakdown again from 1948, when Israel became a nation again, until the end of the world in 2033, which is like one more that locks in 2033 as the end of the world? What was that breakdown again?
Well, Israel became a nation in 1948, I think in May of 1948, and until 2033, it's 85 years. And 85 years breaks down to 5 times 17. Well, there's a couple of interesting things about, Israel becoming a nation again in 1948. We know that God ended his relationship with Israel back in the first century. A couple of things, make that very clear. One was when Christ came to a fig tree and found no fruit. And Israel is typified by a fig tree. So Jesus found no fruit, and so he cursed the fig tree. And we read that, I think it's in Matthew 21. Let me make sure of that. Matthew 21. And it says in verse 18, now in the morning, as he returned into the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? And the fig tree typifies Israel, and Christ coming to the tree basically illustrates his entering into the world, born of the Virgin, into national Israel. And when he comes to Israel, he finds no fruit. Now, of course, there were few that God saved. We know 120 in the upper room. 1 Corinthians 15 speaks of 500 that became saved, but very, very few. Very few. And that's typical at points in time when God is about to end his relationship with an entity that formerly represented his kingdom. We saw that also with the church. At the time of the end of the church age, very, very few true children of God, very, very little fruit, hardly any. And so it was then. And so when Christ comes to the fig tree, he pronounces a curse upon it. Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And we're told also that he found nothing thereon but leaves only. So when we come over to Matthew 24, in Matthew 24, the Lord makes reference to a fig tree. And Matthew 24 is the chapter that is answering, where Jesus is answering the disciples' question, what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? And so part of this, the answer, the whole chapter answers it. We read in verse 32, now learn a parable of the fig tree. And we're told it's a parable. So that means, it's not actually about a fig tree. The fig tree represents something. Learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. And so back in the first century, God, Jesus Christ as God, judged Israel with an eternal curse. Let no fruit grow in thee henceforward forever. Which does, we have to be careful with that. It does not mean that no Jewish people could be saved. No, we know that God saved Jew and Gentile. Even after that, and the early church was largely Jews, and so it's not that. But in cursing the fig tree, that's the political nation. That is the government, the kingdom of Israel, the entity of national Israel, and the religious system of Israel. That's what was cursed, because that's what the fruit would identify with. Israel had a religious system. They had the true gospel, we would say. In centuries past, God gave his word to prophets, Jewish prophets. Israel became the caretakers of that word. The Lord blessed them with salvation. At one point, 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal indicates that 7,000 were saved. And so the fig tree did produce fruit as far as salvation is concerned, and it also produced the fruit that is Christ, as Christ, the first of the first fruits, and that was really their purpose, to produce the Messiah. And once the Messiah came, then God ends his relationship with them and pronounces this curse: no more fruit. And that means in the religious system of Israel, the Jewish religion, from that time until now, until the end of time, no one has ever become saved through the preaching of the rabbi in the synagogue. It just hasn't happened. God cursed it. He cursed the fig tree, and the curse is no fruit forever. Well, we know that also in the first century, after Christ went to the cross, the Romans eventually historically destroyed Israel, and the Jewish people were scattered. They spread out to the various nations, and over the New Testament era, the Jews went to various lands and lived in all these nations, and their population grew and so forth. Well, in the 20th century, due to the horrendous atrocities of the concentration camps in Germany, Nazi Germany, many Jews were killed, and there was a sizable number of the nations were sympathetic towards them, and they worked together to get them a homeland, or to have a place for them to go, because here was this dispersed people, and they had just again suffered so terribly in the concentration camps, and so many millions died, and so the sympathy developed, and God used this to return Israel to the land. This is, pretty much unprecedented. I don't know of any other nation that has been destroyed, scattered to all the nations for 1900 years, from about 70 AD, if the historical, secular, and church historical information is correct, but sometime in the first century AD, scattered to the nations, and then brought back together in 1948. So not quite 1900 years, but and then they became a nation once more among nations. It's really striking, and I don't think many of us were around at that time. 1948, somewhere, I suppose, that would be 52, about 77 years ago that this happened. And if anyone was around back then, they would have been very young. And yet, I remember Mr. Camping talking about this, because he was around. He was a young man at that time, and he reported how the churches were so excited they saw biblical prophecy being fulfilled. And of course, a lot of the churches, they have erred greatly when it comes to Israel, and they misunderstand a whole lot of scripture, such as Romans 11, that has a statement, and so all Israel will be saved. And they don't understand, because they take the Bible in a natural way, in a literal way. They don't understand God speaks in parables, and without a parable he did not speak, and it's not referring to the literal Jews. The literal Jews are not all going to be saved. They've been there for, again now, 77 years since 1948. They've not turned to Christ. There is no salvation, therefore, that has been taking place in that nation except for individuals that have heard the gospel outside the religious system of Israel. And so, all Israel has not been saved, will not be saved as far as the political or the physical descendants of Abraham, because the promise isn't to them anyway. It is to the Jew and Gentile, circumcised in heart, who become spiritual Jews. And the promise of the land is not to physical descendants of Abraham. They did receive the land. The Bible indicates that I can't think of the verse, but I know there's a verse that indicates they did receive the promise of the land, and that according to the physical manifestation of that. But the promise to Abraham and to his seed to give the land for an everlasting possession, that means forever. It cannot apply to the physical land, the literal land. It applies to what that land represents, which is the new heaven and new earth. But now in Matthew 24, it says, the fig tree putteth forth leaves, no fruit, no fruit. And so there's this last 85-year period, if the biblical evidence pointing to the end of the world in the year 2033 proves correct. And it's actually been part of a cycle of a series of 85 years that we can trace back to 1877 BC. And that's when Jacob and his children, the children of Israel, and Jacob, who had his name changed to Israel, left the land of Canaan and went into Egypt in the midst of that famine. After the famine had been 2 years in the land, they went into Egypt, and Joseph fed them and nourished them. Well, from that point, you can go 85 years, 85 years, 85 years, 85 years, and down through the Old Testament side of history. And I believe, phones are great with these calculators, aren't they? If you go from 1877 to 7 BC, it's 1870, and Christ was born in 7 BC. And from 1877 to 7 BC is 22 times 85. So that's that series of 85s, 85 years, 85 falls on the birth of Christ in 7 BC, and then keep counting, but you'll have to go into the New Testament side of things. So from 7 BC, it would be 78 AD, and well, or you could just add 7 plus 1948, and that's 1955. 1955, isn't that interesting? We're familiar with that length of time. That's the duration of the church age, right? From 33
Yeah.
AD to 1988. Well, it's also 7 BC. So 33 AD is the end of Christ's time on earth when he goes to the cross and resurrects and leaves. And then you have the church age, Pentecost and the church age, 1955 years. At the beginning of Christ's time on earth, 7 BC to 1948, 1955 calendar years, same significant breakdown of years, 5 times 17, which is 85, times 23, times 23. So, you know, when you play around with these numbers, it becomes pretty fascinating that this 85 is so significant. And then from 7 BC to 2033 will be 2040, or 24 times 85. And let me just confirm that. 24 times 85. Yeah, 2040. 2040. And so from 1877, a series of 85s all the way to the birth of Christ. So that tells us, if it was that alone, that would be significant. You know, that's hitting the nail on the head as far as time pass go. But it continues all the way to 1948, 5 times 17 times 23, each one significant numbers. And then from 1948, the last leg, 85 to 2033. And overall, it would be 40 from 1877 to 2033 would be, I think it's 46 times 85. Let me just add that up. Plus 2033. It's 3910 divided by 85. Yeah, 46 times 85, or 2 times 23 times 85. 23 tribulation number. And something else that's very interesting, from 1877 to 2033 is 3,910 years, which is also 2 times 1955. 1955 is the length of the church age. But we're basically, when we're going all the way to 2033 from 1877, and really Israel, it was just one family, a large family, 12 sons, but it wasn't a nation. It didn't turn into a nation until it went into Egypt and multiplied. So basically, from the formation of the nation of Israel, which really we could say began in 1877, all the way to 2033, it would include the whole history of Israel, the whole history of the church age, and their endings, right, is all within that space of time. 2 times 23. That's why the two periods of 23, which would total 46. 2 times 23 times 85, and you have the two major entities that God had relationship with, Israel of the Old Testament, Church of the New Testament, come to their final end. And same thing now, you know. We have Israel and the church. No wonder much of the church is so aligned with them because they're so similar. Israel has been cast off by God and has no fruit, cannot have any fruit as a religious system. The church at this time has been cast off by God and cannot have any fruit, does not have any fruit, and never will as a religious system ever again. Both of them. And so we're finding they're identifying with one another when it comes to the whole idea of supporting Israel. The church, due to its false doctrine, its errors in doing proper Bible study, cannot discern when God is speaking about spiritual Israel. And so the things it reads about Israel are true of God's elect, yet the church thinks it's true of the physical nation, and so they kind of slobber all over them basically, and it's all due to error. There's no no truth to it at all. As a matter of fact, they're both still experiencing the judgment of God as far as being destroyed by God. And by the way, if we go back to Matthew 21, where Jesus cursed the fig tree, it says in Matthew 21, after we read, presently the fig tree withered away. And when a tree withers away, it's because it has no water. And this would tie into John 15, where Jesus says in verse 1, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. And verse 4, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. So that which withers, like branches and this tree, is burned. That's representative of the wrath of God. Same thing happened to the church. The moment the Spirit of Christ departed out, there went its life's blood, its water. No more Spirit, no more presence of Christ. And so the church ceased abiding in him, immediately withered away. And so Matthew 21, presently the fig tree withered away, and when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how soon is the fig tree withered away? Jesus answered and said unto them, verily I say unto you, if ye have faith. Now Christ is speaking to the disciples. We are the disciples of Christ. So he's speaking to his people, the elect. Verily I say unto you, if ye have faith, and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. In other words, Jesus cursed Israel, and he's telling his disciples, what I have done to the fig tree, if you have faith, you will also do. And at the end of the church age, the Lord opened the scriptures to reveal the end of the church age. The people of God, the disciples of Christ, learned the truth that the church was just like that fig tree, no fruit, no fruit. and God had ended his relationship with the New Testament churches and congregations. Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. The church age was over, and the people of God had done a like thing that Christ points out here in this passage. And of course, he even says more than that. You'll say, unto this mountain be thou removed and cast into the sea. The mountain represents the kingdom of Satan, and the kingdom of Satan consists of the nations of the world. And the same Bible revealed God's judgment on the world, as it had before that revealed his judgment on the church. And the people of God, by faith, with eyes of understanding and belief of the truth in that day, we proclaim these things. And the world has been cast into the sea in the sense that the people of God firmly believe it's judgment day and the wrath of God is upon them. And it's not just that we firmly believe it, but it is in actuality judgment day, and the sea represents the wrath of God. And so our declaring of this and God's working it out fulfills that as well. So this whole passage that identifies with the judgment on Israel to begin with, follows with the judgment on the church and the judgment on the world in just, 3 or 4 verses. That's how incredible God is when it comes to painting these kinds of spiritual pictures. But thank you for calling and sharing, and let's go to the next caller tonight. Welcome to our open forum program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hi, Chris. I had a question in Judges about Tola. Well, it's really like a time path question. But you know how he reigned or judged for 23 years?
Mm-hmm.
That was 1204 BC. Well, I noticed with the 23, if you go 667 years, that lands in 537 BC, which is 23 times 29. And I know...
Hold it.
Yeah.
Not just for me, but also for listeners, because
Mm-hmm.
I was turning pages, and with time pass, you really have to go slow. Okay, let's read from Judges 10. Judges 10, verse 1, and after Abimelech, there arose to defend Israel Tola, the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, and he dwelt in Shamir in Mount Ephraim. And he judged Israel 23 years, and died and was buried in Shamir. And after him arose Jair, a Gileadite, and judged Israel 22 years. And he had 30 sons that rode on 30 ass colts, and they had 30 cities, which are called Havoth Jair unto this day, which are in the land of Gilead. Okay, so there's another reference here in 1 Chronicles 2. Let me go over there. It mentions something about these cities. 1 Chronicles 2 and verse 21. It says, verse 21. And afterward, Hezron went into the daughter of Machir, the father of Gilead, whom he married when he was 80 years old, and she bare him Segub. And Segub begat Jair, who had 23 cities in the land of Gilead. So that would apparently be the same man. Here it says he had 23, which is a tribulation number. And in Judges 10, it says he had 30 cities, So how are we to understand it? More than likely, he just added to it. Of course, the numbers are significant. 23, again, number for tribulation. 30 would be 3 and 10. Purpose is in view with the number 3, and 10 completeness, so complete purpose. I want to mention that Mr. Camping, in his book, going back to 1993 or 1994, Are You Ready? He wrote about this, and you know, this is why a lot of the information in those books I still kind of read and think about. One thing that I like about it, excuse me, is that I know what was in his mind at the time. He was thinking firmly about September 1994. Nothing beyond. Nothing beyond. Yes, he mentioned maybe 2011, and I don't know if he mentioned back in 1994. He may have mentioned in passing 2033, but firmly he was focused on 1994. And what he said in the book, Are You Ready? About Judges 10 is that the first judge, Tola, he is a picture of God judging during the Great Tribulation, because he judged for 23 years. And that's the historically, 23 from 609 to 587, 23 inclusive. And Mr. Camping was thinking that the Great Tribulation should be 23 years to 2011, but it would be shortened according to Matthew 24. This is the reason why he went with 1994. He thought for the elect's sake, he was teaching at the time, none would be saved over a full 23 years. So for the elect's sake, God shortened it to 2,300 evening mornings, which from May 21, 1988, he had that date back then, through September 6th or 7th. I forget what, he may have been saying the 6th at that time. And it was 2,300 days. So the number 23. So he laid out in Are You Ready? This pointed to the Great Tribulation. And then he said about the second judge, Jair, who came, he had 30 sons, rode on 30 ass colts. They had 30 cities, which are called Havoth Jair unto this day, which are in the land of Gilead. He said Jair was a picture of Christ coming after the tribulation with his sons, who would be the children of God, Christ coming with his saints. And then they rule over 30 cities. I can't remember exactly. I just think that meant ruling over, the kingdom of God, which at that conquered the world at that point. And what's interesting about that, I look at that as an impartial source. In our time, I'm looking at 2033, and someone might say, well, you're always trying to find something to 2033. Well, this is back before 1994, and Mr. Camping just looked at the spiritual meaning of these two judges, and he saw it, Great Tribulation followed by Judgment Day, Christ coming. And yet the length of time for both judges, Tola judged 23 years, and Jair judged Israel 22 years. Combined, 45 years. And that's very significant because from 1988, and that's where Mr. Camping was starting from, May 21, 1988, to get the 2,300 days to September 1994. If you go from 1988, 45 years takes you to 2033. 2033. And it breaks down into exactly our understanding of these two tribulations at the time of the end. May 21, 1988 through May 21, 2011, 23 exact years. From May 21, 2011 to 2033, 22 actual years, 23 inclusive. But it's 22 plus 23. Now that is remarkable because I'm not the one who said, and anybody can check that out if you get that book. I think we might have covered it in Mr. Camping book analysis that we have done, on Sunday. And he wasn't looking to 2033 when he said, yes, that's a picture of Christ coming with his saints, and yet it fits perfectly. And not only that, but from creation to the year 1988 is 13,000 years. From creation to 2033, 13,045 actual years, 46 calendar years. So there's where the 45 comes in. And actually, if you want to, why is there this 45? Yes, it does work out very nicely for these two tribulations at the time of the end. But really, it comes from the fact that when God destroyed the world with a flood, from creation was 6,023 years. And then if you go from the flood to the next ultimate disaster, 2033, that the flood typified, the end of all things, according to biblical evidence, it's 7,023 calendar years, or 7,022 actual years. Put 6,023 first earth together with 7,022/23, you get the total duration, Earth's history, 13,045/46 years. And we know with Jericho, since we're talking about this, with Jericho, God had the army of Israel march around the city. It was at God's directive. Go around the city once a day, 6 days. On the seventh day, go around 7 times. So God broke up the 6 and the 7, just as he's the one who calls the world prior to the flood the first earth, and the world after the flood present earth, or it's actually spoken of as a second earth. And we see that after 13 times total around Jericho, it's the end of Jericho, and that points to the end that we have come to. And all this evidence, all this biblical evidence, and that's what it is. The evidence is factual. The timeline is proven correct. It is 100% trustworthy concerning the biblical dates, and the projection into our time to the year 2033 and other dates like 1988. It's factual. 1988 was the 13,000th year of Earth's history, and 2033 will be 13,045 actual years and 46 calendar years. Now, to show biblical precedent, you can do the same thing with creation to the flood, 6,023 years, flood to the cross, 33 AD, the most enormous event, perhaps in all human history, when Christ went to the cross. From the flood date to the cross, 5,023 calendar years. So we again have this fullness of thousands of years in 23. The total number of years from creation to the cross in 33 AD, 11,045 actual years, 11,046 calendar years. It's an exact match as far as fullness of thousands of years and that ending, the attachment of 45/46. And that's what we have coming up in a few years, in the year 2033. There's so much exactness and precision about this date, this actually length of time from 88 and 94 to 2033. 94 to 2033, a Jubilee year to 2033 is identical space of time from 7 BC, a Jubilee year, to 33 AD. It is, it's remarkable. But yes, you wanted to say something else?
Sure. Do you know if he ever mentioned a time path from when Tola began to judge, which is 1204 BC, all the way to 1994? Because I noticed that's 3,197 years, which breaks down to 23.
3,197 actual or calendar?
Actual.
Okay.
And that breaks down to 23 times 139. So it's a series of just 23 years. So I don't know if that's significant. I try to break down 139.
Does 139 break down?
Well, that's the thing. It's a prime number.
Yeah. In order for that to have significance,
It has to break down.
we'd have to find what does 139 mean. And, I don't know any meaning for that. So.
All right. What about there's two other ones, but they're before 1994. One of them lands in 537 BC, which is from the same date when Tola began to judge. It's 667 years. I know that number is found in the book of Ezra, but that breaks down to 23 times 29. But then again, 29 is also prime. Not sure what the significance of that is. But if you go two more 23-year periods, it lands in 491. And I know 537 was the second year the foundation of the temple was laid after Cyrus conquered Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
But then going two more 23-year periods, you get 46. But I know we're a little uncertain if that's how long the temple took to build. So, because that kind of conflicts with the 70 weeks of Daniel. So I'm not sure if it's significant, but I don't know if you ever saw that.
I don't know. I don't remember if I did. But
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. And I don't think we have any other callers on the line. If anyone has a question, you can call 888-969-9883. 888-969-9883. Okay, we'll end our program here. And Lord willing, we'll have another open forum program tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. But for now, may you have a good night, and may the Lord's perfect will be done.
Thanks again for joining us for E-Bible Fellowship's live open forum program. You can call in with your Bible questions Monday through Friday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and Sundays beginning at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, may the Lord's perfect will be done.